Welcome to the Butterfly Mindset Podcast. Welcome to the Butterfly Mindset Podcast. Today I have the most special guest in the world, my mother. What's up, Mom?
Nothing much.
It's funny because I'm doing a totally rebranding the podcast. So it shifted from Cyrus's podcast to the Butterfly Mindset Podcast, and I thought, who better to interview for the first episode of the Butterfly Mindset Podcast than my mom, who created the Butterfly Mindset. You know, so I want to kind of talk about, we're going to talk about life, and this might be a long conversation, might be a short conversation, I don't know, but I want to talk about, I learned things about your life, like bits and pieces of how you think, and you really molded how I think. So for me, this is all about sharing how successful people think and how they move. And like I said, you molded along with so many other people in my life, but you molded my life and my thinking to how I think about, everything happens for a reason, positivity, so on and so forth, which is, you would think that that would be, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer, but your life wasn't the easiest life. It hasn't been. So starting from, I guess, when you were little, where did you grow up?
In the heart of LA.
In the heart of LA. And when you grew up in LA, obviously it was just the perfect life, perfect childhood, right?
Well, it wasn't the perfectest, but it was okay.
What was it like?
When I was growing up, life was totally different than it is now. We played outside, we ran up, we climbed trees, we did all the stuff you do outside, ride bikes. Most of the time I was with my cousins and my aunt and uncle because we were almost the same age. So I spent a lot of time at my grandma's, and just part of life.
But you're one of how many?
I'm one of 7.
One of 7.
Yeah.
And you're in what order?
The second oldest.
Okay, and then so you have one older.
I had one older brother.
You had one older brother. Who was that one?
Raw, but he passed away when he was 18.
How did he pass away?
He got shot. He was in the Marines, and he came out for a leave. He went and hung out with some of his old friends, and he was driving his friend's car, and they mistaked him for their friend, and they shot him.
Wow. He was 18, you said? Was he, was it because he was involved with, the wrong people? Or
Yeah, well, we grew up in East LA.
Yeah.
So he hung around with I guess he was like a cholo, but I never saw him like that.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a bad guy. And he joined the Marines. And
Do you know why he joined the Marines? Or?
just to get away. But he was a good brother.
And then at that time, how old were you then?
When he passed away, I was 15.
Wow. So then you became the oldest.
And I became the oldest.
Was that how was that mentally? Did that change anything of how you operated, or were you just like how you took care of your younger siblings, or?
I always looked out for them. Regardless, even my brother, I looked out for him. I used to iron his clothes and do things for him.
Yeah.
It was just part of my way of being.
Yeah.
I always looked after everybody.
So, and then how old were your younger siblings at the time?
I had, my sister was 2 years younger, so she was 13. And then my brother was 12. Then my sister was like 7. And we had just had a little brother.
So he was a baby.
Yeah.
And was it all the same mom and dad, or?
No, we had, yeah, well, there was 5 of us from the same dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom had my sister, and then she had my brother.
Okay. And then when did you have Desiree? So
I got married when I was 15, and I had Desiree right before my 16th birthday.
So was that um
Right after my brother passed?
yeah.
Yeah.
So like how soon after was that?
Well, like, Desi was, no, actually, it was before he passed, because Desi was 3 months old when he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was that dealing with being and was that like you're 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
having a 3-month-old, and then your brother just passes away. Like how did you deal with that?
It's hard, but I believe that God only gives you what you could handle, and it makes you stronger.
That's I get sunglasses. I get to hide my tears. That's a strong statement because, like, we haven't even got into a lot of what you've been through, So, and I'm gonna rewind even more because when you were little, you had even told me that you had gone through foster care.
Correct.
At some point. I remember like hearing that and being like, what the heck? Like you didn't even tell, like we didn't know about that. Like
Because it's a part of my life that it was a part of my life.
Yeah.
I didn't have to tell anybody because I wasn't ashamed of anything. It was part of growing up for me. And it didn't, like, it hurt when we were separated, but it didn't cause me, like, to go backwards in any way.
Yeah.
I always went forward.
Yeah.
My mom had a hard time because she was a single mom, although my dad was in and out of our lives the whole time. But my mom was totally a single mom. And my mom had like issues where she would have like nervous breakdowns and so forth. So at one point, we grew up on welfare. So at one point, she was like, her worker said, well, you need to mentally take care of yourself, so we'll put your kids in foster care so you can straighten yourself out, like just mentally.
Yeah.
And then we'll give them back. Well, she put all of us into foster care, and then they didn't want to return us. You get into the system, and it's hard to get out of it. My mom being young and naive and not knowing what was going on.
How old was your mom around that?
Probably about in her late 20s, at least.
Yeah.
In her 20s. Because by the time she had me when she was 17. So figure 10 years, yeah, about 26, 27. So she was really young.
Yeah.
And she had 5 kids
Dang.
at that point. Is it raw? No, she had 6.
Wow.
She had 6 because my little sister was like a baby.
Yeah.
So she put us in, and then my grandmother, I guess at that point, my mom went to my grandma. My grandma said, don't worry, I'll take them. I'll go pick them up for you or whatever. I don't know how we ended up, but we ended up all back with my mom.
How old were you?
About 10 or 11.
Dang. And how was it like?
We only stayed in foster care for about a year and a half or 2.
But how was like what was that experience like for you? Do you remember?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. The family I was with was very good and very kind. It was normal. We went to church. We did birthday parties. We did campouts. We went on vacation. So it was nice. It was a different experience in life in
Yeah.
itself. What life should really have been like, not
Yeah.
having to worry about anything.
What do you mean worry about
Like,
anything?
worry about anything like, worry about my mom, worry about my brothers and sisters.
You were 10 or 11 and you were worrying about
I was
your mom
9.
and you were worrying about your mom and your brother and sisters. What were you worried about?
Well, because I'm the one that used to help my mom with everything. I used to help take care of the kids, help her out, just do things.
At 9 or 10. And then you went to foster care and you felt like you kind of had more like a normal childhood, a
Yeah.
quote unquote normal
Well,
childhood, or like,
kind of like just a normal way of living.
yeah,
My childhood, I could remember, was nice because I was with my grandparents and my aunts, my uncles, whatever. We had a normal. My mom did whatever she could for us.
yeah.
Um,
And so then you're like 10 or 11, and then your grandma just comes and picks you up, or what?
yeah, she just goes from house to house wherever all my brothers, we were all separated except me and my sister at one point. They brought my sister to where I was at.
Yeah.
So she stayed with me for maybe about 4 or 5 months before we went home. And then my grandma just picked us all up.
Just she
Just
didn't.
went to the houses and picked us up and said we were going back with her. And we went with my grandmother, and then my mom had I stayed with my grandmother for about, me and my brother, probably for about 6 months before I returned to my mom.
Okay. And then when you returned to your mom, what was it like?
It was okay.
It was like normal,
yeah,
or
it was normal. My mom just was my mom.
yeah,
You know, and I never, like, I know sometimes we didn't have a lot, but I didn't blame her because she had a lot on her plate.
yeah. Um, and then like fast forward, you have Desiree,
Then I
my
get
older
married.
sister, and you get married.
Yeah. And then I move out and live in my life, but my mom's still in my life.
Yeah,
So I was still trying to do for my mom as well as try to take care of my family. I was young. By the time I was 27, I divorced and I went back with my mom. And my mom opened her doors and I stayed there with my 3 kids.
So wait, so you by the time you were 27, you had
3.
Desiree,
Corina,
Corinne, and then
Stephen.
Steven. And I was like calling them by their nicknames.
Yeah.
and then you divorced. You're
Divorced
like,
at 27.
and then you moved back with
My mom.
grandma, and then but in that time, what are all your siblings doing?
Oh, by the time I went to live with my mom, at that point, my sister had already passed away, but she was 18 when she died in a car accident. And she just had my brother, George. And so my other brother, Ray, lived in Colorado,
Yeah.
didn't have too much. I never really saw him.
So wait, so your sister, what she was how old when she passed away?
18.
So your mom lost your older brother and younger sister both when
Both
they
at
were
18
18.
and 10 years apart. One in 77 and the other one in 87.
Wow.
And we lost a little brother in 65. He was 6 weeks old. So she had a lot to deal with.
How did she deal with it?
I don't know. Might be just in her world. I don't know.
Do you think that like going through that as her kid helped you understand like how you would want to deal with it as a mom?
Definitely.
Like, did you ever think about those things when you were little?
I knew that I wanted roots because I didn't have them. We moved a lot around so much as a child. I never even, I think I went to like, you go to middle school for 3 years, and I probably went to 4 different middle schools. Um, Elementary school's the same. I didn't have any roots.
Yeah.
Um, Being a single mom, she had to do whatever she could, and sometimes she couldn't pay the rent, so we had to leave. And it was hard.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, other than having to move all the time, I don't remember a lot of hardships, like just not having enough to eat, or that was just part of my growing up. That
Yeah.
was normal for me. So my thing was I wanted to raise my kids in a community, in a home that we didn't have to keep living.
Yeah. So then you're 27, you got 3 kids, you're living with grandma, and then how old were all the kids?
Stephen
Desiree
was
was what,
like
12?
5. No, Desi was, when I divorced, she was like 11, I think.
Yeah.
10, and he might have been 5 or 6.
Yeah. And
And
then
then I was living with my mom, and they were in school, and I would take them back and forth to school. I put myself in school
where were you living though?
in Cudahy,
Okay.
where my mom had her house.
And so you were living there, and then you would take him back and forth to school. You said you put yourself in school?
Yeah, I put myself in school. I went to like just an off the wall school to go to like for legal secretarial.
So wait, so when you were 15, you got married and everything. Did you finish high school?
No.
Okay. And then you went to like a trade school?
I went to a
Or
trade
did you ever
school.
finish high school or no?
Well, no, I never finished high school, but I did go to like, as I got older, I would go like, I went to like ELAC, East LA College, and I took like different like psychology classes, child development classes, just different things
Yeah.
just to keep myself busy. And I never really like finished it all.
Yeah.
Then later when I went with my mom, I decided I wanted to do something with myself. So I wanted always to work in the law office. So I went to do that. And I finished it, and I graduated from there, and I got a job.
Why did you want to work in a law office?
I don't know. It was just something I liked.
Just like,
Just because.
but did you ever meet somebody or anything like that? Or it was just like,
I just wanted to do that. I just wanted to work. I thought it was something like prestigious to go work in a law firm. So, and I did. I worked there, and I liked it. And
what'd you do there?
I worked for family law. So we
Okay.
did a lot of family cases. And
Yeah.
I did all like actually the secretary of the attorney.
So you
did
were
all
like typing and doing all that.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of stuff.
And then, so then you were doing that, and then like, then how long was it before you met?
Your dad?
My dad.
I met him 2 years later when I was 29.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And-
you were 27. You just got divorced. Then you start working as a legal secretary, and then you met,
Your dad.
and then it was. How did that work?
Well, at first I didn't want anything because I wasn't sure. I just had gotten out of a relationship. I just wanted to be by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was having fun, just the kids, taking care of my kids. My mom would watch them in the evening. If I went out, I'd feed them, put them to sleep, and then I'd go out. Then I'd come back in the morning, do what I have to do with the kids, go to work, do everything.
Yeah.
Then I meet your dad by coincidence. It was just like something fluke. We were on the freeway driving, and they were in a Ferrari,
Yeah.
and we were in a Corvette. And then we're driving down the street, and my sister says, "Look, those guys are so cute." And I'm like, no, no. And she goes, just play with them, Corina, just play with them. And I'm like, oh. Okay, so we started messing around on the freeway, and then we pulled over, and it was like fate because the driver went to my sister to talk to her. And your dad came to me to talk to me. So we talked a little bit. We had fun, just like exchanged numbers and stuff, and we went on our way.
Yeah.
And then he called to take my sister out. My sister goes, just go out with us. Just go out with us. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to do this. I said, okay, let's do it. So we went, and it turned out that I ended up marrying your dad.
But I know that. So you went on that double date or whatever, and then you didn't call my dad back though, right?
For a while, I did call your dad back, but afterwards, and then we were just like friends.
Yeah.
And then I went out with my friends, and we went to Ensenada, and I didn't call him, like Rosarita.
Yeah.
And I didn't call him at all for that whole weekend. And he was like, what the heck? And when I get home, we had answering machines at that point, and
Yeah.
it was like, I don't know how many calls from him. And I was like, oh my God, this he must be stressed. What is his problem? So I shower everything, get ready, go see him at his job, and he's all scraggly. And I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like, what's going on? He goes, how are you doing? I was worried about you. You didn't answer my calls. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we weren't even really dating. We were just like friends.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, maybe he's worth a try. Maybe he really does care for me.
Yeah.
So then I started dating him, and that was it.
And then how long after you guys dated did you guys get married?
Like a year later?
Dang, that was quick.
Yeah, like a year later, because he knew I had 3 kids, and that was my worry, that somebody wouldn't accept me with 3 kids. And the kids had off and on with their dad. They'd go one weekend, so that weekend we'd spend together.
Yeah.
And then the next weekend we would take the kids somewhere. And it worked out really well. And he really liked the 3 kids. So then he just said we just got married.
Wait, so you, why were you worried that someone wouldn't accept you with 3 kids?
Because my mom had a lot of kids. She had a lot of opportunities, but never wanted a chance on taking one.
What do you mean?
My mom was a very beautiful woman, but she never really wanted to give herself to somebody because maybe she was in love with my dad. I don't know. But he never was in the picture.
What was your dad like? What did your dad do though?
I don't know. I think he did a lot of things that weren't normal.
That weren't good?
Yeah.
But did you like know him, or did you?
Yeah, I knew him. No, yeah, I knew him because he was with us when I was little. But he would come in and go. He'd be gone like maybe a year, and then all of a sudden show up again. Or he'd come like every 6 months. And I remember living with him, and then I remember us leaving him. So it was like it was weird. It was different.
And he and then when did he pass away?
In 89.
Do you know how, or?
Yeah, he had diabetes and he didn't take care of it.
And then so that was 89. So how old were you?
I don't know. I was born in 61.
Okay, and then did you, like, how did that feel when losing, like, because he wasn't really in your life,
yeah,
so I'm wondering.
I mean, I kind of felt it, but it didn't consume me in any way.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, well, he's gone.
Yeah.
In the other words, when my mom passed, that was different.
Yeah. So going back, so you had just gotten married, and then, so now you're what, 29, 30?
29, I was 30.
30 years old. You just got married, and then you, how long after did you have Bijan?
A year later.
Okay. And then your best son came after that, Cyrus.
Well, actually, Bijan was planned, and Cyrus was our surprise.
Cyrus was
it was definitely the gift.
It was the gift.
It definitely was, because Cyrus is the one that keeps the house going.
What do you mean?
Like, the house was always like quiet. But when Cyrus was around, it was alive, like just rambunctious. Yeah.
Um, it's funny. You always say, "What did Baba
Baba
say?" Yeah.
said when he'd come home from work and the house was quiet, he's like, "Where's everybody?" And I go, "Everybody's here." And he goes, "Why is it so quiet?" Well, Cyrus is asleep. So Cyrus was sleeping. The house was quiet.
And what was it like? Like, I'm actually curious. So, like, you went from like living with grandma to then meeting my dad. Then did you guys move in together, or?
Well, at first, no. Your dad got an apartment closer to us, and then we were seeing each other. I'd go stay with him like the
Where
weekends.
was he living before you guys met?
In Downey,
Okay.
and then he moved to Huntington Park in an apartment there because we were living in Cudahy, so it was down the street.
Yeah.
Then I got a place, and he moved with me for about a year
A place where?
in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And then we lived there for about a year, and then that's when we moved to Orange County.
Why did you guys move to Orange County?
Because one of his friends said that another friend was renting a house, and that he thought it would be good for the family to move to Orange County. And he told Baba about it, and then he said, okay, so we moved to Orange County.
And this is when you had just 3 kids, or?
No, Bijan was born. Bijan was like 6 months or something,
Yeah.
7 months.
And where'd you guys move?
Right down the street from where we live now.
Really?
Yeah, on Marion.
So you guys just rented like a
We
place
rented
there?
a house there. Yeah, the same kind of house we have, but we rented a house there.
And then when did you guys decide to buy the house?
Well, we started, like a year later, we started looking for a house because we were going to buy a house like down on Marion. And Baba said we put everything down, but it didn't go through for some reason.
Yeah.
So then we moved out of the house where we were at and moved into an apartment. And we continued to look, and then like the following month or something, we found the house we're living in now.
Wait, so how is it like going from like so at this point were you like financially stable, or was it like?
Yeah, we were your Baba took care of everything. I didn't have to worry about anything.
But like how was that going from like where, I mean, from when you were so little, like you were saying earlier, like 9 or 10, worrying about your mom, worrying about everything, like what was
It
that?
was more like a gift because I could still truly help my mom. Whatever my mom needed, I could give her.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about it. You know, and your dad was very generous in that aspect. Whatever he gave me, I could share.
Yeah. So were you working at this time then, or?
I was working when I met your dad, and then your dad didn't want me to work anymore. Then I was at home most of the time, and then I started working for your dad.
Okay. Doing what?
Doing like the DMV work, finance companies work, like going to the finance companies and picking up checks, taking them paperwork and stuff like that.
And then so then because he owned multiple different car dealerships and everything. Mm-hmm. So then you guys are renting an apartment, about to have the best kid of your life, and and you decide you're going to buy a house. Mm-hmm. And was that because you wanted to buy a house? Was that because he wanted to? Was that because you guys wanted to do it together? Because you had said earlier you wanted roots, so I'm curious on what.
Yeah, we both decided it was the thing to do at that point because he was financially okay, and it was time at that time just to settle it down somewhere.
Because you have 4 kids at the time, 1 coming.
Yeah.
And so you chose where we're at now because you guys already knew the area, or what?
Well, yeah, and it was a nice area. It was quiet, and when we found the house, it was like the perfect place.
Yeah.
It was strange because we went to see another one right across the street, Mr. Chin's house.
Yeah.
And that was like dark and gloomy, and I'm like, no. And then they said, oh, across the street, we're going to put the sign up today if you want to go see that one.
Yeah.
And that one was bright, light.
Yeah.
It had everything.
And so wait, so then I'm actually curious, how did like Desiree, Steven, and Corrine like deal with like you meeting Baba?
They were okay with it because they were young when I left their dad.
Yeah.
And their dad, and Desi had a harder time than the other two. Because she was older.
Yeah.
She didn't understand it in the beginning. But as time went on, she said, I'm glad you did what you did. Because my 3 older kids, I believe they had more time with your dad and was able to have a father figure. Their dad was there, but their dad wasn't really involved with them. And Baba was everything for them. He did everything for them like their own.
What do you mean?
Well, like if they were his kids, he just did everything. Bought their shoes, bought them cars, did everything for them.
And then
supported them.
So but at first it was hard for Desiree?
Well, at first, Baba didn't get that part because we were without the dad for 2 years. That's when I had the hard time with her.
Oh, okay.
Not when meeting Nicholas, that was, they were good with it. They were okay.
Yeah.
They really liked him.
And then like because we grew up like I didn't even know, like I remember, I don't know, being, older and realizing that it wasn't even like we weren't even half siblings or anything.
Yeah, because that's what your dad wanted. He wanted you guys never to feel the separation. So he allowed and he encouraged the girls when they would go to their grandma's house or wherever they were going, you guys were more than welcome to go with them. He didn't separate you guys.
Yeah.
Because he wanted that bond. He didn't want a separation. So when Desi would say, I'm going to Grandma Angie's house, she would buckle you guys up in the car and she would take you guys.
Yeah.
And that was your grandma and grandpa. You didn't know any difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he didn't want that.
And so was that like conversations that you guys had together, or was that like?
Yeah, well, he always told me that he didn't want the kids separated. Like he didn't want them to feel like they were different.
Yeah.
So that's why he did everything the same for you guys that he did for the 3 older ones.
Yeah.
And the 3 older ones weren't his, but he still had them like everything for them. He didn't segregate like, oh, well,
Yeah.
you get your child support, so figure out what you're going to do with your kids. No.
Yeah.
He still did whatever they gave, whatever I would get, my money I would get was mine. I didn't have to input anything. He took care of everything.
Yeah. And then you bought the house. I was born right after or right before the house?
No, you were born right before. We moved in the house when you were 16 days old.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then, so that would have been December 20th, 1993. Mm-hmm. And so then you guys moved in the house, and then fast forward all the way to, let's say, wait, so now what are your other siblings doing at this time?
The ones I had. My sister lives in
Santa Maria.
Yeah, Santa Maria. She's living her life with her son and daughter.
When did she move there?
Oh, when my nephew was little, probably like 35 years ago.
But you guys were living together when you guys met Baba?
No.
Or where was she?
Oh, actually, yes. Yes, because she had moved in with us. Because she had separated from her husband.
Okay.
The baby's dad. And so she was living with us, yes.
And then that's when you guys went out?
Yeah, when we would go out and stuff like that. Or she had her own place. I don't remember. But at one point she was there with us.
Yeah. And then, okay, so so she
separates, and then she meets somebody, and then fast forward, I was already with your dad, but just dating, and then she ends up with with Hassan, and then they got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about your other siblings?
My other one, I only have one more after that, was when my brother was in Colorado, living his life with his family, and then my younger brother was George. That's all we had left. So right now, fast forward, there's only two of us left.
So, okay, so then you have, and then what was Uncle George doing at this time?
He was young. He was like 13 years old.
Okay.
He was just with my grandma.
Okay.
My mom just.
So you guys were living when he was living there when you were.
Yeah, he was living there with us. Yeah.
And then you moved out. What did he feel like? Do you ever know like what he felt like when you moved out or anything?
No, he never really said anything. I just left and.
That was that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you fast forward to 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma passes away in January.
Mm-hmm.
2004.
Right.
But I remember like she had came to live with us.
Yes, about 2 weeks prior, she said, "I'm gonna stay here with you now. I'm gonna live with you. You know, I'm not gonna be at the house anymore. Let George stay there." And she came to live with me.
Okay, so Uncle George was staying at the other house?
Yeah, because he had a girlfriend, Gladys, and he had Zion. So she wanted to stay out of his life and let
So
him
she
live.
just let him live in her house.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so where was that house?
In Norwalk.
Norwalk. And then Grandma came to live with us.
Mm-hmm.
But she was like, was she not doing well? I don't remember what happened because I remember her having to go to the hospital.
Yeah, well, she was always in and out because she had heart problems and all these problems. She had open heart surgery prior to that.
From what? Just a heart attack or?
No, just because she had arteries blocked. So
was that because of unhealthy or?
I think it's part of, I don't know actually why, because she had diabetes when she got diabetes after my brother died. She was in her 30s.
Yeah.
And that's when she hit diabetes. From diabetes, then she ended up with high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Everything else, heart problems and everything.
Yeah. And then, so then she comes to live with us.
Mm-hmm. She came to live with us, and then I would take her back and forth to the doctor. And once she had to go to the doctor, so I took her in. They kept her there.
Yeah, I remember.
That was after a week after she had already stayed with us, and then she passed.
Because she stayed with us.
For like 2 weeks. Well, she used to come in and out and stay with us prior, like in between everything.
Yeah.
And then she would go back home.
Okay, and then, so then your mom passes away in 2004, January. How did that feel?
That was the hardest. That was really hard. Because my mom was everything for me. I did everything for her, like whatever she needed, I would try to do it for her. You know? And that was real hard.
But then then you lost your mom, but then then Uncle George came to live with us too, didn't he? So what happened to her house then?
I let it go into foreclosure. I couldn't deal with it. I helped her so much with it. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how important it was to keep it, but I just couldn't deal with paying for it because she wasn't here, so I didn't see why I should continue.
Yeah.
And that was just the ignorance of something, you know? But that's why I let it go. Because I could have continued to pay it.
Yeah, exactly. So then Uncle George comes to live with us. I remember that because I remember it was like my favorite part.
Yeah.
And then so Uncle George is living with us, but Gladys was living somewhere else or something,
yeah,
right?
She
They
went back
broke
home.
up or something, right? Mm-hmm. And she left, and then Uncle George was living with us for a while, and then did Uncle George move in with us before Grandma passed away?
No, after.
It was like right after, right?
Yeah, like couple months after, because that's when I let the house go. So 3 months, if you don't pay it, then it goes into foreclosure.
And then he came to
Then
move
he
with us.
came to live
So
with
that's
us.
why he came to move with us.
Yes.
I didn't know that. And then he came to move with us. So then just January, February, March, April. In April, I just remember always like every day hanging out with Uncle George. It was like
Yeah.
my favorite thing. And then in October 29th, 2004, Uncle George passed away.
Mm-hmm. And that was hard. That was even harder.
Why?
Because that was my little brother. But I know God doesn't do things, He doesn't give you what you can't handle. And it was the hardest thing for me. It was the most hardest thing. So hard that I sent you guys to school the next day because I didn't want you to be part of it. I needed to be by myself.
I remember walking down and like realizing it. Um, I think Uncle George is the one I miss the most.
He had a very caring heart, he was very good with you guys. He was a good brother and a good uncle. He might have not been the best son, but he was a good brother and a good uncle.
Why do you say that?
Because he gave my mom a hard time a lot. And that's maybe just because of immaturity, I don't know.
But he was only what, 28, right?
29.
Yeah, 28.
28?
Yeah.
Yeah.
28 when he passed away. And
He was
then
young.
so that was you lost grandma, then you
Mm-hmm.
lost Uncle George. And then what was like during that time, like what did Baba do? Like
Well, he helped me with all the funeral arrangements. He did everything for it. He helped whatever he could.
and then like what was it like to like for like being, dealing with your 5 kids at that time? Like when you lost grandma and then Uncle George.
I think that's what kept me going. Because I didn't have time to sit down and think about it. I had to keep moving. So in my own time, when you guys were in school or when you guys, were doing things, that's when it hit me. When I was by myself.
Yeah. And then did you and then like fast forward to what exactly a year later.
Yeah. My world really came down.
What do you mean?
I didn't know what I was going to do. He was my everything. He took care of us. He took care of you. He had a home for us. He had everything for us. And then he left. And I didn't have a choice.
Because Baba went into the hospital October 29th, 2005, and then passed away on November 1st.
Correct.
And what did that what was going on through your head like at that point?
I couldn't believe it was happening. Like, I had just went through 2. And that was hard. But then to have your spouse also leave, and then you're staying with your kids again by yourself. I think it's the most hardest thing to go through. But at the same time, it's like a fight or flight. You have to figure out how to do things. And it was really hard for me because there was times I remember crying in the room because I couldn't figure out how to pay the bills. And you'd come in and you'd say, "Mom, what's wrong?" And then I would tell you and say, "Don't worry, Mom. Don't worry. God knows. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And then for some reason or another, it would be okay. And I could pay the bills and I could pay the house. That was my worst fear, was to lose it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to have to uproot you guys. And I think that was the hardest part of it all. Having to figure out things that I didn't have to. It's like having a table with 4 legs, and then all of a sudden one leg breaks and you're trying to figure out how to balance it. It was the most hardest thing that I had to go through.
And then, like, you were, I remember going into the room and telling you that a lot. And then, like, but like you, for me, seeing you, like, instead of sitting there and, like, I guess, like, you know, curling in a ball, which sometimes, like, we would sit in the room and just cry.
Right.
I remember, because I'd say something like that. You'd be crying and I'd be like, what's the matter? And you'd be like, this. I'd be like, don't worry, it's all good. Like, we're good.
Yeah.
And but instead of, like, just shutting down, you, like, stepped up. You started working multiple jobs.
Correct.
But, like, what was that thought process?
Well, it's the only way that I knew that I could make. I had to do something other than sit there and not do anything and lose everything. And I didn't want to lose you guys because you were still very young.
Yeah.
So I had to keep going and make myself strong to keep you guys.
What do you mean?
Because I felt like if I would lose the house, I would lose you guys.
Like, what do you mean?
I don't know.
Like lose, like
we'd have to move somewhere where it was not safe. If I would have to move somewhere not safe, then maybe you'd hang around with the bad crowd. I don't know, the way I grew up. And I had to make choices as I was growing up, and I didn't want that for you guys.
So do you think that, like, because everything you had gone through, losing your brother, your older brother, and all of that, you didn't want those? That's what you're talking about.
Yes. That's the part I didn't want to happen. Because you hang around with the bad people, even though you're not a bad person, they see you with the bad people when they think you're a bad person.
Because that's what happened to your brother.
Yes.
It wasn't that he was really, I think, probably getting his life on track.
Exactly.
He just came home from the Marines and then he was with the wrong people.
Right.
So then, so you start working multiple jobs, keep the house overhead, and then like, what about the businesses, Baba's businesses? We lost them all.
Everything was, well, by the time your dad died, we had already lost the last one that he had. But he still had a couple of cars left.
Yeah.
And so he had sold those and we had that money. Then it was hard because he had taken out a loan for the other business we had. And it didn't work out for different reasons. But when your dad died, there was money.
Yeah.
And that's how I kept it. But I kept it just by the time, you know, sometimes I had it, sometimes I didn't.
Yeah.
It was hard because I didn't know how to really manage money.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have money to manage. I didn't ever have to worry about anything. Yeah. Whatever I needed, it was provided for me by your dad.
Yeah. And before that, you didn't have it.
And before I didn't have it, so I didn't miss it.
Yeah.
So it didn't, you know. And when I did have it, it was like, okay, I could do whatever I needed to do.
So you went to, like, maintenance mode, basically. You went to, like, you're going to go and get, you know, jobs, pay the bills, just keep
the house going.
So now, the whole time, like, that this was happening, like, it was interesting because people would always ask, like, what do you want to do with your life? Or they'd be like, what do you want to be when you get older, yada, yada, like as a little kid or whatever. And then, you know, I'd say something or whatever. And then if I talk to you, it'd always be like, you could do whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where did that come from?
because I always wanted roots, and it was always in my mind. And in the ending, whatever I had to go through to get there, I got there. So I knew that was the only possible way is you put your mind to something and keep it in there, and you'll succeed.
And then, like, you know, we're in middle school, and then this is when I like really decided I want to play soccer as a professional, because before that I didn't want to, right? And then I remember like saying that, and I remember like growing up even in like high school, and like as I got better, because when I was younger I wasn't even that good, but like as I got better and better, and then it was actually like, oh, this could be a possibility or not or whatever, could go to college, and teachers would tell me you should go to college, blah blah blah, and I told you I didn't want to go to college, and you were always just like okay, just do what you
want, what you like, what you feel.
But why not push me to do something else?
Because I knew that you wouldn't be happy doing that. So I wanted you to be happy in whatever you did. Because if you're not happy and you have to go to college, then it's not you. I wanted you to be you. All the kids. It didn't matter like some went, some didn't. But that's because it was their choice. If they wouldn't have wanted it, then I didn't want to push you to do something because I wanted you to do it. No, I wanted you to do what you wanted to do.
But where, like, how did that mindset? Because so many parents, like, that's not how they operate.
I know, but because it's just, I don't know. Because I know that if you do something you don't like, then you're going to have a miserable life. Because you're doing something that, oh shoot, my mom made me go to school for taxes, and I don't want to do taxes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it anyways because she wants. It's going to be miserable for you every day to get up and go do your job.
Yeah.
So if you like what you're doing, it's not going to be a job. It's going to be a pleasure for you to get up in the morning and go do something.
Go enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then, so now, I think it's pretty interesting because then like, fast forward to, so Baba passes away. And like I said, like that was really hard. I always say like that was the best thing and the worst thing that ever happened to me. Not because like he was the best dad ever. It was because like if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Exactly, and I believe that too. I believe that. That's why I say God doesn't make mistakes in whatever He does. Everything's a reason. I feel the same way because you guys were handed a silver spoon. Every time you needed something or wanted something, it was there. You didn't have to want, or you just say, oh, I really want that. Okay.
Yeah.
Even when your dad died, you both wanted laptops.
Yeah.
Okay. In September, he bought the 2 laptops for Christmas in December.
Yeah.
He passes away in November. But he still had your presence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was something, and I think that if he would have still been here, I think you guys would have been just spoiled, obnoxious kids. No, seriously.
No, it's true. I agree.
You wouldn't have had to work for anything. So it would have been just like, oh, my dad would take care of it. Or my mom would give me. You know? And now you guys have earned where you're at because you worked hard.
Well, that's what I was saying is like, because like I know for a fact, like I probably like, and again, like you said, like I probably would have, because we had everything when he was around.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to like not having everything, worrying about, like, I remember the same like worries that you were saying about, you know, your mom, like having the same thing about you, you know, like worried, like, is my mom okay? Do we have enough money to make the house payments? You know, growing up that way. But that's really what made me, I think, like, think the way I think and operate the way I operate. And then, you know, I'll get to that part, but like, you know, what then, so Baba passed away, and then what, like 6 years later or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you meet Henry.
5 years later, I met him. And it was just like friends at first.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, we'll start dating. But then I had to introduce him to you guys.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't sure yet. And I didn't want to bring somebody into our home without
Yeah.
feeling, I don't know, it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I started dating, then you and Steven got kind of like, what? Who are you going with? What? You're doing like overprotective. And I was like, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure how things were going to be. So that's why I had to wait a little bit and then.
So yeah, but then then Henry comes around and I hated him.
Yes, definitely hated him. You did. And
But
I didn't understand why, because he wasn't a bad person. He was pretty nice. But I think it was a man coming into your house where your dad was. So that was hard for you. And I remember you coming up to me and telling me, why do you have to date? Why do you have to go out? You were 16 years old. And I'm like,
yeah.
what do you mean? Well, yeah, I don't understand why. And I said, because I don't want to be by myself. I didn't want to be like my mom by herself the whole life and struggling.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a partner. And I had my partner, and God had a different plans. At that point, I remember you coming up to me and telling me, well, I miss my dad. And I said, well, I'm still in love with your dad. And I said, I didn't make this choice. God did it. And I still love him and I love you, but I don't want to be by myself. And I remember you hugging me and we both cried. And now I believe you're his best friend. You're really close to him. And that's why I say God doesn't make mistakes. However he draws it out, it's the perfect plan. And not anything in life is perfect, but he makes it fit. Because I know you had a hard time with him in the beginning. You
Yeah.
were so mad.
It's so interesting because like you just said something. You said like God, like everything's perfect, but not everything's perfect, kind of thing. But like then if you really think about it, like the imperfect is perfect.
Right.
And like that's like so much of like your story is like it's like not this like perfect story at all.
Mm-mm.
But without all of that, those experiences, you wouldn't have operated the way that you operate, which then in turn wouldn't operate how I operate. But I remember like yelling and telling Henry to get out of the house
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. Like I don't even know why. Like, well, I know why, because I felt like
Like he was invading on your.
no, I felt like he didn't need to be there. Because as I think I was what? I was 11 years old.
You were 16.
No, I was
17.
11 years old,
Uh-huh.
and then when Baba passed away, or 10 or 11, just
You were
about to be 11,
Yeah,
yeah.
you were 11.
And then I remember that happening, and then I remember, like, I think it was Amo Ali. He, like, came up to me and he was like, you're the man of the house now.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I remember that.
But I never understood, like, why it was me instead of Bijou. And, like, but I just knew I got to make sure that mom's okay, blah, 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 right? And then I think that's what bothered me is, like, I was like,
I'm here. What does she need somebody for? You were a kid, And I understand where you're coming from too, though. And that's why I'm so proud of the person you become.
well, yeah, and then, like, you go back to that, then I'm, like, infuriated about Henry. And then I I don't know what happened, or I don't know why. I don't remember when like we became friends.
After you guys wrestled.
We
You were
fought,
so,
right?
yes, because you guys,
I like
I was
fought, like
outside.
I like physically fought him.
Yes, because you guys, we were in the family room and there was some boards or something that needed to be moved outside. So I got up to go do it. And he was sitting there doing something and told you something like, why don't you go help your mom? And you said, help her do what? And I don't know what happened. And you guys were wrestling in the living room, in the family room. And I'm like, stop, whatever. And it wasn't like to hurt you, but you were so angry and you had to take it out because you didn't know how to deal with it. Like him being in the house and him saying something, and you thought he it wasn't his place to say anything. But after that, you guys became friends.
Yeah. And then, yeah. I mean, also I think like around like when I was going to Europe to go play soccer is when I really realized like when I graduated high school and then I was going. So when I really realized like, wait a second, now I'm leaving. My mom's got to have somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was like my moment where I was like, oh, it makes sense.
It might have been because you didn't understand in the beginning, like, what do you need somebody for? And I said, I don't want to be by myself. That's one thing I didn't want to be. I knew that. I just didn't know that it would happen again because when Baba died, I thought that was it. It was over.
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody else. I didn't. I just wanted him, and I couldn't have him.
Yeah. So when you met Henry, like, and then you fell in love with Henry, like, how did you process that?
It was hard. When I met him, it was just like a friend. That was your thing because you sent me out with your friend's mom.
Oh yeah.
Island's mom said, go out with her. Just go out with her, Mom. Because I was always home.
Yeah.
Just depressed.
Yeah.
In the evenings, I was just there.
Then I was like, you should go dancing.
Yeah, go dancing because I love dancing. You said,
Yeah.
you like dancing, just go. So that's when I went. And probably after the 4th time going out with her is when I met Henry.
But did you have like do you feel like guilty or anything like that? Like
No,
what was that feeling like? Because like it's one thing like after you get divorced, right?
It's different. Yeah, well, when you lose somebody, it's harder, but you know that whatever, like my thing was I was going to stay with him forever.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan to leave.
Yeah.
He didn't have a plan to leave either.
Yeah, exactly.
We had talked before, I know, right before he passed. He was probably, I don't know, right before he died, I think. We were talking and stuff, and he said, if anything happened to me, I don't want you to be by yourself. I'd rather it happen to me than to you because I wouldn't know how to raise the boys. And I said, don't talk like that, it's not. He said, well, if it does, I want you to remarry. I don't want you to stay by yourself. And I said, well, I don't want you to remarry. And he just laughed, but he said, I'm serious. And he kept saying, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this before I'm 50. I didn't know he was going to die. Maybe he didn't know either, but he just knew he had to take care of some stuff before.
Yeah.
So when I met Henry, it was just like
He was 49.
friends.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He was young.
No, but it's crazy that he would say that.
That he had to do it before he was 50. Yeah. That was his main thing, was to get everything in order. And it wasn't working for him. It wasn't in the plans.
And so then, sorry, go ahead.
So then I went dancing, I met Henry, and it was just like, he was 3 years younger, and I was like, oh, you're a baby. Like, I don't even want to deal with you, And he was like a baby. I'm not a baby. He was 40, I think he was like 45 at that time.
Yeah.
I just turned 49.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no way. And little by little, we would call and talk to each other, and then we started going out, but as friends, and then it started getting a little bit serious, and that's when I introduced him to you. That's when I started bringing him around.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to bring somebody in that I wasn't sure of.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that.
But what I'm saying is like when you were doing that, like like how
What did
was
it
it
feel?
like? Yeah, like how did it feel? And then like how was it for him
Well,
when?
it was hard for him because it was more hard. I think it was more hard for him than me because I already had a standard that I wanted.
Yeah.
I already lived with a man that was a gentleman, that was giving, that was loving, that was caring. And it was hard for him to live up to that. And I remember one time we were going somewhere, I don't know what, I had went up there for the weekend, and I was ironing and I started crying and I couldn't figure out why. And I remembered when I used to iron your dad's suits for work, his shirts, and it hit me really, really hard. And he walked in, he goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "Nothing." He goes, "Why are you crying?" I go, "Nothing." And then that's when I broke down and I said, because I'm still so in love with my husband that passed. And I don't know how to do this, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid to get close to you because I'm still in love with him. And I remember him holding me and reassuring me and telling me, just give me that love and I'll take care of it. But I know in the first 4 or 5 years was up and down. It wasn't. And I remember sitting, after I met him, I remember sitting and telling God, whatever you want. If you want him in my life, leave him. If you don't, take him out now, because I can't do this. I can't think I have something and I don't.
Yeah.
And he
There's a napkin right
he
there.
showed me that, that, I don't know, it was hard for me.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I remember saying bye to him and telling him that it was over. I couldn't do this anymore. Just leave me alone, And it was really hard for me because I had already given him my heart. And I always wished, why did you leave me? Why do I have to go through this again? And I would tell God, I know you have your reasons. You don't make mistakes, but just help me with this one. And remember, he moved out for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to move back, and I was so brokenhearted. And I said, when he left, you guys watched me crying. And then he said, "Oh, I need to move back. I want to rent a room from you, remember?" And everybody said, "No, Mom, don't do it. Don't do it." Stephen was saying, "No, don't do it, because he already broke your heart once." And I said, "But if I don't do it now, I'll never know." And God opened the door again. And then we were married 6 months later?
Yeah. And then in between all of this, there was when was it that Corrine tried, because the house went into her name
The house
right
went into
before
her.
Baba passed away.
Right. He put it in her
Because he
name
was
for
doing something
security.
for a loan or something like
Yes.
that, right?
Yeah.
And so he does that, and then Baba passes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then how old were we when
were
she tried to
13.
sell the house?
You were 13. You were 13 and Bijan was what? 14 or 15?
Yeah, that would make sense.
It's like a couple years after he passed away.
Because they moved in with us.
Yeah, they were going to move in with us. They were moving in.
They repainted everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. I had moved from the master bedroom downstairs.
Yeah.
Put all my stuff there, and I was giving them the master bedroom.
Because they were going to help with all the payment and everything, yeah.
And then we fixed the room for the baby. And that's when I bought Sung's car.
Yeah.
And I had a van. And I was giving it to Desi because Desi didn't have a car at the time. And Corinne got mad and said, "I can't deal with this. I'm moving in with you and you're buying a car."
Yeah.
So she left. After that, Probably a year later too, she wanted to sell the house, and she leaves notes for you guys.
I don't remember the notes still.
Oh, I have a note. It actually saved still, but they left one. She left one on your pillow, one on Bijan's pillow, and one in my room. Because everybody had a key to the house.
Yeah.
And you get home, and when I come home from work, you tell me, Mom, what's this? Rena's gonna sell our house, and I said, what?
Yeah.
I hadn't even seen the note yet, and that's when I went furious, and I called her, and I said, how dare you? Yeah, but she wanted to.
She wanted to sell the house. And then for years. So I remember. So it's funny because like I don't remember the note, but I remember that feeling, and I remember it happening. I just don't remember like reading the note. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. And then I remember like that was right when I started. I think right around when I started training with Zach.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like before it was like I want to play pro soccer, but when I started training with Zach, I saw like an actual avenue of like getting there.
What you could get, yeah, how to get there.
Because he was already doing it. He was already coaching the pros, the right. best in the world, right? So then I like saw that, and then I think that was when I like decided for me it was when I like was like I have to play pro because I have to buy my mom her house. Because I knew how hard you worked to keep the house for this long. So then fast forward, like we're there, but there was always like this thing where she'd always try to do something with the house.
Yeah, she always wanted money from me, and I refused it. I argued with her, and I was barely making ends meet. Yeah. And then she'd call me and say she wanted, you want your house back? You need to buy it from me. What do you mean?
Yeah.
We gave her for her to put the house in her name. We had to pay off all her debt.
Yeah.
That was over $50,000 or something. And we did a lot of things, and she lived with us until she was 25 years old without paying anything.
Yeah.
And then this happens where she wants to take it, and I don't believe it was so much her, but I think it was more the husband.
Yeah.
Than her, but still, because that was my child, it was so wrong.
Yeah. And then we fast forward, this is all going out from basically when I'm 13 till a couple years ago, basically.
Yeah, to probably 2020, 19?
I don't know when 2021.
2021, yeah. Well, then she wants to call me again, remember? She starts calling me. And I didn't want to do anything with her, so then you call her and say, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?"
Yeah, because so I remember like I don't know what age it was, but I remember like Steven getting married or whatever, leaving, and then like not talking to the family at all.
Right.
And then so like I remember being, I don't know how old I was, but I just remember like my uncle, who I thought was the best person in the world, gone, then my dad being gone, and then my older brother
being gone, yeah.
And then I remember like I was really close with Ina Corrine. And she was like, I was always really close with her.
Yes.
And then when this all happened, I was like, kind of like, what the heck is going on? But I always tried to stay close with her.
True.
Like I was the only one that would like go hang out with her,
or
talk to her,
or have lunch with her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it was in, maybe like 2019, 2020, around that time when she called you or something because she wanted to do something with the house again.
Well, she wanted me to pay her $65,000, and then she would sign over the house back.
Yeah, but she didn't realize what I do for a living.
Exactly.
Because I went to go play in Europe, then I came back, and then I stopped
all over
playing.
The place, right.
And then now I own this real estate company, and it's one of the top real estate companies. So she didn't realize that that's what I do. And then my whole goal was, I had two goals in life. One, pay my mom's house off. Two, buy a G-Wagon. and then I think I got the G-Wagon, and then the goal was to do that, and then she called you to try to get money
Money
or
from me.
whatever,
Yeah.
and then I called her and I was like, hey, like, this is like, you know,
Right.
this is what I do now, like, let me, you know.
Yeah, how much do you want? You said, do
Yeah,
you
what?
want 5,000, 10,000? What do you want? And she
Yeah.
said, no.
Yeah, I actually asked her first, like, just to, like, hey, like, I could just assume the loan, I could do this, yada yada. She didn't want to. So then I said, okay, like, how much money do you want?
Hmm.
And I asked her how much money she wanted, and I said, you know, I'll give you 5 grand, 10 grand, whatever. And I said, you want 20 grand? She goes, it's got to be a lot more than that. And I said, well, I'll make you a deal. I was like, one, you say you talk to me, you care about me, you this, you that, like, then like, if you want a relationship, because she said she would always say her relationship with the rest of the family's
Gone.
gone,
Right, 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 right.
which, like, my siblings, they all will tell her that.
Hmm.
Me, I was always like, no, it's not. Like,
Yeah,
for me, it's not gone.
right.
Because I remember her bringing Steven back. Because when Steven came back home, it was on Christmas, and she had arranged him to come back home, and he came back home on Christmas, but he hadn't talked to the family for a little while.
Yeah,
And I was the only one that talked to Steven. Like, I would, like, reach out to Steven or his ex,
Hmm.
like, on, like, I don't know, like a messenger or something, and
Hmm.
then we talk, and then I'd, like, talk to them a little bit and blah blah blah, and
Hmm.
then, like, that was it. But then after he got divorced or whatever, then he came back home,
Right.
and I remember that. And then and I, like, told her that. I was like, look, like, what do you mean? Like, it's family, your family, it doesn't matter,
Hmm.
everybody's gonna accept you back no matter what.
Right.
And she was like, no, it's not like that, blah blah blah. And then she told me that she thinks that and then she told me, she was like, no, the relationship, like, it's done, like, no one likes me yet. And I said, no, like, I care about you.
Hmm.
So, how about this? If you want a relationship with me, period, no one else, just your little brother, then let's try and figure this out.
Hmm.
But if you want $50,000, $60,000 versus a relationship with me, then you just let me know that.
Hmm.
And she said that she wanted the money. So then I hired an attorney, and then ended up paying the house off
Right.
and getting the house back from
From Korea.
from her. But my question really is like, I remember sitting down with you at breakfast one of the mornings when I was going through the paying it off, and I had just got the payoff statement, and it had like $30,000 of late fees.
Hmm.
And I was so mad at you. And I sat down with you and I was like, what the heck? Like, why are there late fees? We've been okay for a while. Like, I've been making money. Like, what do you mean there's
Hmm.
late fees? Blah blah blah. And I was so mad that you had late fees because you're missing mortgage and
Hmm.
yada yada yada. I was so upset. And then you told me, Sai, I've always been 2 months behind because since your dad passed away, because you could go 2 months, you just can't go 3 months. And I remember just thinking, like, from when I was 11 years old, what you're telling me, from when I was 11 years old all the way to when I was, what, 26, 27, you were 2 months behind on mortgage. You just didn't go 3 months. How do you deal with, like, were you just never stressed? Was it just a norm? Like, was it just like,
It was surviving. It was like either I pay this and stay without this, or just keep it going so that we're surviving, so that it doesn't go into foreclosure, but I'm still able to do other things. I was working 4 jobs,
yeah,
and none of the 4 jobs amounted to pass the payment.
yeah,
So it was either the payment and then don't pay this and this, or leave the payment the way it is, just continue to make it
yeah.
so that I could do other things for the house.
So then what did it feel like when you realize you didn't have to make a house payment again.
It's still unbelievable. I still get like awed by the fact that, I mean, I'm still working. I still have things to pay. But it's not like so stressed that I said, oh, dang, I got to make this payment.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big relief. It's a blessing. And I tell everybody about it because I'm very blessed. I don't think I could have, I mean, whatever it was, I could have overcome whatever because that's my mode. I can't just sit there and not move. But you made it a lot easier. Bijan has made it a lot easier. I see so much of your dad in you guys. I don't know how to explain it. But it's just like a lift off your shoulders.
Yeah. So now you're where you're at right now, because we basically went through your whole life now.
Dang.
And now, like, what's your like you've been traveling more?
Yes. We've been traveling a lot more, and we've been doing things to the house.
Yeah.
Things that I wasn't able to take care of before. Even you helped put a roof on the house.
Yeah, I put a new roof on.
New roof. Yeah, and then we were
solar.
And solar, and so that's a whole different. Like, wow, there's a new roof on here. You know what I mean?
Well, the roof hadn't been replaced since the house was built in 1970. Freaking.
No, 64.
64.
I don't think so.
No, it literally hadn't.
Yeah, see? And it was
crazy.
literally falling apart, and it was like I don't know, it's just like, that's why I say God doesn't make mistakes. Whatever happened, happens for reasons, and it got you where you're at. It got your brother where he's at. You know, the other 3 kids were fine because they were almost adults when Baba passed.
Yeah.
And he raised them.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing in life is when you raise your kids with morals, you don't have to worry about anything. Because everybody always tells me, hey, you've been a really good mama. You raised your boys right. I said, I didn't do it by myself. They said, yeah, because they know your dad died. And I said, no. It's like when you plant a tree on the ground and you put the stick to hold it and and you just have to water it so that it grows strong.
Yeah.
That was already done with you guys by him. And I just had to continue to water you guys so you guys can flourish.
Yeah.
If it was whether encouraging you, and letting you know that anything is possible, and continue to water and fill your mind with anything is possible.
And I think that was like, for me, like because I like talk to a lot of my friends, and I talk to like a lot of different people about like, how they're brought up, how their kids, how their parents. And like, I think the big like differentiator for me and my childhood, minus the death, minus the hardship, minus all of that we dealt with, was that you always said you can do anything you put your mind to. I'd come up with some idea and you'd be like, do it. Mm-hmm. It was never like, I don't know about that. You probably shouldn't, It was always like, do it. If you want to do it, you can do it. Mm-hmm. When I started a clothing company, you're like, if you want to do it, you can do it. When I did this, she was like, if you want to do it, you can do it. And that, I think, mentality created how I think, because like I truly believe I can literally do anything.
And you can. You can, because since you were 13, you might have been like 12 or 13 when you started coaching kids.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Because you needed pocket money. So since you were that age, you always tried to figure out how You didn't have to stress me on what you needed and make your own little pocket money to do the things you had to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you were always there. You just had to be molded a little bit.
Yeah. And then now, like I said, you're fixing up the house a little bit, traveling a little bit. What's like if you had to give like one piece of advice to someone that's struggling, someone that just lost somebody that's a single mom, that whether it's because of divorce, because of death, what piece of advice would you give them?
Don't give up. Continue, because there's something better for you coming. Because things don't happen. You just don't get divorced just because. Somebody doesn't die just because. It's because there's a different plan that you don't have and you can't see it yet, but it'll be there.
And how do you suggest like people keep that, I guess, faith
Well, that's what it
when they're
is.
going through all of this crazy pain?
They have to believe. That's what kept me going. Is there's a higher power, I believe. And that's how I got through it. And I'm sure that's how you did it. I kept you guys in Bible camps. I kept you guys busy. You guys were always busy.
Yeah.
Catechism, everything, because I wanted those morals instilled in you. I wanted you to know that there was a higher power. And I believe that. I believe so much in God, and I know that He doesn't make mistakes. No matter how I was raised, I wasn't raised going to church all the time.
Yeah.
But yet you guys were.
Yeah.
From day one, every Sunday we went to church.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because, I want them to go to church. No. I wanted you guys to believe in the higher power.
Yeah.
And to have a fear of, like, there's somebody up there that is watching us.
Well, there was also like it's actually very interesting that you just said that, because that made me think about something like, now I was about to end the podcast, but now I'm going to go on a tangent. It made me think about something like we went to, you said that we went to Bible, but like
Everyone.
It was not, we did not go to a single denomination. Like
No.
we literally went to every single, I was like, my mom just used it as daycare now that I think about it.
No.
Because we went to like every religion, every freaking denomination of Christianity, every religion,
But you
everything,
have to
but like,
understand why. Because there's only one God. Doesn't matter if he's in Catholic church, Christian church, whatever church he's in, there's only one.
yeah,
And that's the truth. Because even your dad was, Muslim?
yeah,
But not practicing. And he always used to tell me the stories, and they're all the same. So there's no difference between a Muslim, between a Arabic, whatever, Greek. It's all the same religion. When you come down to it, it's one person, one higher power, and that's God.
I like always say, like, I think that like all of the religions and the teachings, they all really come down to like two things. It's like, one, like, be a good person,
Mm-hmm.
and the second, like, love other people. And I think that if we can do that, then it's just about a relationship with God, right?
Exactly. And I think that going to different,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, yeah. That actually made me like, also I think like be more tolerant of other people, because it's very easy when you're only stuck in one way. Then like I've met a lot of my friends that feel like they went to only this, they only learned this, they only learned about this church or this religion, and they feel like they were quote unquote brainwashed when they were little.
yeah.
Right? Where like you open the door to allow us to see everything else, and then you showed us, hey, this is what I believe in, this is what I do, but like you allowed us to see everything else, versus close the door and say you can't see everything else.
Right.
You can only see what I want you to see.
Oh, see,
And I think that was I think that like is such an important concept, going back to that, because like it made it be our choice to believe in God or not to believe in God, or to believe that this is the way or this is the way. Like it made it our choice versus like you have to do it this way.
Right, right.
You know, which I think is unconventional for a lot of parents because a lot of parents they want you to just do
Be
what they
Catholic, yeah.
believe is right and that's it. Period.
And my goal was to give you guys to see the world, but to have morals. Because without morals, you can be the richest person, but it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because you don't have any morals. And I think morals is the number one key. If you're a good person and you're an honest person and you're a caring person, you're a loving person, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because you can lose everything today, but because of your morals, you can get up and go tomorrow.
Yeah. I love that. Thanks, Mama, for being on the podcast. I love you.
Love you too.